Hi, this is Milan, and in this tutorial I'm going to try and explain masks in a way that is going to be easy to understand and easy to grasp. Masks are without a doubt my absolute favorite part of Photoshop, and when I started out using it I really found it difficult to understand, and I think it's not because it's a difficult concept, it's just because I couldn't find material where people explained it to me in a way that was logical and easy to understand. So that's what I'm going to try and do in this tutorial. Now, if you have seen the layers tutorial, I'm going to follow a similar kind of setup. So what I'm going to do is just create 3 blank layers, and on each layer just create a circular colored shape. Alright, so select another layer, another color, circle that overlaps, another layer, another color, and circle that overlaps. Alright, and now right at the bottom of the layers palette, right next to the layer styles icon, there's a little square triangle shape, a rectangular shape with a circle inside, and that, if you hover the mouse over it, says add layer mask. So the moment I click it, this is what happens. I get added to my layer this little rectangular white block, which is the layer mask. And at this point it doesn't seem like anything happened. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the other layers as well and click on the layer mask for each of them. Alright, so each layer has a layer mask, and on the canvas it doesn't appear like much has happened. Okay, now there's a couple of important principles to share here. First one being, you can select the layer and the layer mask independently. Alright, when I select the layer, you'll see that the color at the bottom here is at the moment green and white. The moment that I select the mask, they change to black and white. The reason being that a layer mask only understands grayscale from black to white and all the shades of gray in between. So to illustrate this, with the mask selected, if I change this to say a red, the moment I click OK, I get that value in gray. Let's take another color, something like a dark green. I'm going to get a darkish gray color. Alright, and again, it's simply because the mask can only read grayscale. Alright, so it's an important principle to understand that you can select the layer and the mask independently. The mask affects the layer, but you edit these completely independently. Alright, so with the mask selected, at the moment it's a white mask, and how this works is that a white mask reveals and a black mask conceals. It's as simple as that. Alright, so with the mask selected, first thing I'm going to do is come to Image, Adjustments, and then halfway down there's a function here called invert. The shortcut is Control-I. Now what invert does, if I select the red layer again, with that layer selected, if I go Control-I, the red turns to a light blue. So it just gives me the inverse color of whatever is selected. So on the blue layer, Control-I is going to give me yellow. So similarly, if I select the mask and I go Control-I, a white mask is going to turn to black. And you'll notice a couple of things. First of all, the entire red circular shape disappeared, and I'm now sitting with a black mask. Alright, if I press Control-I again, then the layer comes back. So white reveals, black conceals. Alright, and it's as simple as that. Alright, so with a black mask, I can now take my brush. Let's set the foreground and background color back to black and white. I'm going to use the shortcut, which is D, and then with X you can flip between foreground and background. So the easiest way usually to do this is just to look at your mask. Now I can see I've got a black mask, so I know I want to work with the inverse color, which is white. And now with my brush, if I simply paint, I can see that I am again revealing areas of my layer. Alright, and if I continue to paint, I can paint all the way till I can see the entire red circular shape. If I press X to flip back to black and I paint within it, I am now erasing from it again. And this is what is called a non-destructive workflow. It's non-destructive in the sense that you're not actually erasing the pixels. I'm simply obscuring their visibility. I'm simply obscuring their view. So again, flipping with X, I can just paint it back. With X again, remove it. And I'm simply just switching my foreground and my background color. Alright, so that is an important principle. Next thing, what I'm going to do, I'm going to change this, not to black and white, but to a color. So let's say red, and now paint over it. And you'll see now what happens is I get a semi-transparent circular shape. Alright, so this value of gray, the value that it is between white and black is the value that Photoshop is going to use to give me transparency. What I can do is I can hold down Alt and click on my mask, and I can actually get a preview of my mask. While in preview mode, I can still edit on it. So I can flip back to black and paint it. And now if I hold Alt and reveal again, my layer is completely gone. By pressing D to flip back to black and white, and with white, I can now paint on it again. And if I hold down Alt on the mask, there I can see what I've done. Alright, so if I remove a section, Alt click again, I can see that's what I get. So it's simply a way for you to view your mask, to have more control over it. Alright. Now, people look at this and they say, okay, I get it, but I don't know exactly how I'm going to use this in real life. If, let's say I edit a photo or I'm busy designing something, how will I use mask? Now, a mask, think of it this way, it's just the way that one layer reveals or conceals in regarding to other layers. So in a sense, it's the way that layer blends with layers below it. So one way that we can always use this is with adjustment layers. So I'm gonna just select another image and show you with adjustment layers. Now the adjustments panel, which you can also find in the window drop down if you're using CS4 or up, there's adjustments. Mine is docked at the bottom here. If for instance I take hue saturation, you see that I get a hue saturation adjustment layer, and I can now go and edit it. So let's say I drop the saturation to 0. So now my image essentially has turned black and white, but it is simply an adjustment layer which is forcing its effect down onto the image. So I can hide that layer, or I can even drop the opacity of that layer or bring it up. Now adjustment layers comes with a mask automatically, which means I can just immediately start painting and get that effect. So I can bring areas of my photo into color or take it back to black and white. So in this case, what I'm going to do, let me just clean this up properly, there we go, is I'm going to switch to my gradient tool. So where you see the paint bucket, if you right click, you'll find the gradient tool. Click on the gradient tool, come to the options on top, make sure that I'm in black to white, if black and white is not your foreground color, which will be this very first block, set black and white. And now I can click in the image, hold down shift just to constrain the line, make it a straight line, click and drag. And you'll see now my image fades from color into black and white. So the adjustment that I've made to make it black and white, I'm now partially concealing it by the use of this mask. If I hold down Alt and click on it, there I can view it. I can do Control I again to invert my mask, and this will inverse the effect. So now the top area is in color and it fades to black and white. And I can build on this. So I've got a levels adjustment that I accidentally made earlier. And let's say I darken this image. So I darken the image completely. And now I can just, I accidentally deleted its mask as well. I can now just edit on that mask. So let's say I do my brush again, flip X to go to black again. And now I can paint back the areas that I don't want to be so dark. So any kind of adjustment layer that you make on your images, you can utilize the fact that it already comes with a mask. It's as if Photoshop anticipates that you're going to want to use a mask. Alright, and if you find that the effect is too much, you can just drop the opacity of the layer slightly. Alright, so in another example, let's take this image. I've got this black and white image just lying on top of a black solid. And in this case, I want to create a bit of a design effect. So I want this top image to blend into the background from the side. So all I need to do is create a layer mask, go to my gradient tool, I'm on black and white, and now I can just click and drag, and it's going to fade that section into the background. Alright, so very handy, very powerful, and if I alt click on the mask, there I can see the mask, and there I can see the effect that it's creating for me. Alright, then just a last thing, if I jump back to the initial document, let's make a take a different color. I'm gonna make a completely new layer, so click on the new layer button, take my brush again, make it sort of hardish. Okay, switch to the wrong color there, let's just get that color back. Alright. Okay, so let's say I've got a little bare face there. I'm going to double click in this open area just to get my layer styles. I'm going to do a quick bevel and emboss to it. If you've watched the layers tutorial, then this will all make a lot more sense. Alright, so let's say we've got some layer styles applied to it, and now I'm just simply going to apply a mask to it. Now here's the powerful thing about this. If I could press on D to flip back to foreground and background to black and white, flip on X. So now I've got black, which is going to conceal. If I now paint on this layer, the layer style is updating with the area that I'm concealing. So you can immediately see how this can become a really powerful tool. And if, for instance, this section I didn't want, I can just press on X to flip to white, and I'm just painting back that area. Alright, so in a nutshell, that is the world of masks. It's really, really powerful. I hope that I've explained it in a way that is easy enough for you to grasp. If there's anything that's uncertain, you're welcome to mail me, and look out for further tutorials and have fun. Alright, there you go.